Hello, I'm Marty McClendon. I'm a host of a radio show here in Seattle, Washington. I'm a political candidate. I ran for lieutenant governor in the state of Washington. I'm a past pastor for many, many years. And I'm passionate about interviewing today Ric Fritz, Center for Christian Civic Engagement. So Rick, what's this about and why?
Okay.
And tell people who you are.
Absolutely. First, a little bit about me. First, I'm a sinner saved by grace. That's the thing that launches all of this out of it. Is that relationship with Christ as Lord and Savior, which motivates me most and foremost. So, but also not only that aspect, but the Lord has given me a unique background of being involved in the political world. I was a former elected official. I've worked directly for a council that represents 800,000 people. Our county actually represents and more people than in 5 states. And so I've seen how the interaction of people involved in the political process is absolutely essential, and how a super minority of people actually are the ones who drive what happens in our world. I see the impact that happens through the councils and through elected officials, that is where they set policies that impact our daily life. And so this idea that Christians cannot be involved or shouldn't be involved with politics is a non-starter, because if we yield that area, well, then we yield a huge impact on people's daily lives. I am a husband of one beautiful wife, Dina Fritz, who will be traveling along with me. I'm a father of 4, and 2 of those children are going to be part of this ministry, as well as an Air Force veteran, and I'm a licensed pastor at the Assemblies of God. So I have a lot of areas that make me uniquely qualified into this specific area that we're talking about, of Christian civic engagement.
Well, thank you for your military service, and obviously your spiritual service, and your public service. That's pretty amazing. It's nice to see that you have a foothold in each area and can uniquely speak to the idea of the church being engaged in politics.
Right. We're often wondering, why are you doing this, Lord? Well, now we know.
There we go.
Everything's for a purpose.
So with the Center for Christian Civic Engagement, what is the mission vision for the ministry itself?
The mission and vision of the Center for Christian Civic Engagement is all about getting Christians involved out of their church into the political process. Whatever step this may be, it's as simple as voting, which is the basic participation of all Christians. Voting, informed voting, that would be the next level up of obviously being informed and being able to encourage and educate fellow Christians around them on the candidates, on the issues, and we wanted to encourage engagement along those lines. We want to train people as to why the biblical mandate is for participation. So not only is there a need and a why, but also the biblical support of, yes, we should be involved, because I want people comfortable. I want them to realize that when they go in, that they're speaking God's truth into a realm that is God's, and that they should feel bold in doing so. And then the last aspect is showing them how, where they can plug in. And we really want to put people in contact with organizations that are already involved, and just say, now that you know the importance, here are the various ways that you can get involved, and then we plug them in and let them go from that point forward.
So wouldn't you think that Christians would already be involved?
You would think so, but actually we have encountered over the last year, as part of his campaign, as he stated earlier, being a lieutenant governor campaign, right, that we are amazed by the number of churches who said, no, that's not our mission. No, that's not our ministry model. No, that's not what we want to focus on. And we understand that there's a lot of great ministries that churches need to be involved. Our point is that there is a civic engagement ministry. Part of any congregation will be a number of people, 1 or 2, 3 or 4, who knows how many, depending upon the size of the church. There are people who are passionate about this same process, and they need to know that the pastors in the church support them. And I think that generally speaking, that there's not this feeling out there, and so Christians don't want to engage, and so then they do not impact the conversations that are affecting their daily life.
So you would say, though, that Christians really, if they did get engaged more at a greater level, would have an impact, not only in local government, but national government as well, right?
Absolutely. Last year, as part of the presidential nomination process, I came in contact with a group of people I like to classify as Christian, conservative, and constitutional. And we banded together, and we were able to have a tremendous impact, not only at the local, but at the county and the state. And we saw what happened when people unite around a purpose, a principle. How uniting and how motivating that is. And that all you need is a few people to stand up and speak up. And then all of a sudden, you're going to see a crowd of people materialize around you who share that value, who share that view, and want to engage as well.
Okay, so a question comes back then. Obviously, you got this unique perspective that you can bring information to, and a need for the church to be engaged in local politics, national politics, to make a difference. We see what's happening in our world. We pray for it, but we have to be engaged to make things different. So why you and why now?
Why me and why now? Why me? Because I have just finally reached my point of going, we see the trend of our culture. And the church, I believe, one of our tagline is, you must influence them. This comes from Jeremiah chapter 15, verse 19. Jeremiah 15:19. That says, God calls Jeremiah and says, you must influence them. Don't let them influence you. And I see a culture that is far more influenced by the enemy than it is by the church. I see churches that are more influenced by the culture than the churches are in influencing the culture. And this is unbiblical. This is failing to do our calling. The gospel of Christ is to influence everybody. The gospel is a gospel of influence. We are to try to create relationships that bring people to salvation. And for us to not be involved in certain conversations, we're yielding that to the enemy, and he's utilizing that to lead people astray, to keep them from ever experiencing the gospel. And that, I believe, is where we need to stop, because by being participants in these conversations and saying things in the right way, we do want to express Christ's love. We want to express his truths, but we don't sacrifice truth for lies. And we want to interject where we can. So this is the why me, why now, is I have that passion to take that conversation and create that need out there.
And you believe now is the time because of what's going on in the world? And
I believe anybody who looks around, that now is the time. We've been on the sidelines for far too long, and we've seen that the consequences of it are dire. And if we don't lovingly step in and say this is wrong, God has more than what we see around us now. It may be too late for so many people. It hurts to see. It really does. When you read the articles and you watch what's going on, you recognize, going, man, this is hurting God's kingdom.
Right.
We gotta stop it.
So, what specifically will you be doing as the ministry? Day by day type stuff.
Day by day, we are actually, we have sold everything. My wife and I and family, we do not have a house. We sold our home, invested it into a truck, a fifth wheel, and a 40-foot fifth wheel with a pretty decent size, because our two kids are also going along with us. But we are full in on this one. We're going to literally take this ministry to wherever it's needed. And so we want to know if a church wants to get engaged, we want to be able to take it, go there, be in an area for a period of time, get people in that area to come to a meeting, for instance, or a training, and say, okay, you see that you're not alone now. You have these various people throughout this region. They all share the same passion. You know the why, you know the how. Now come together and you can go out and you can engage and make a difference. And so we're literally taking this on the road. It is a full-out commitment towards it, and we're excited to see what the Lord's going to do, because this is done by complete step of faith. We are as I like to say, we're putting our actions where my mouth has been, and I'm excited to show how God's gonna bless this. How? We don't know.
I'm excited. Now, I know your military background, your church background, the ministry, the political background, you like measurements, ways to know how you're being successful. How will you know that you're making a difference in your ministry 3 months, 6 months, a year from now?
How will we know? Well, the fact is we'll know when we see the people engage, when we see pastors who are passionate to teach their congregations biblical worldview principles, that are pastors who understand the need to say, you know what, I do have a couple of those people who love the political process, so I want to encourage them rather than discourage. So when we see more and more encouraging pastors with their congregations, we will know as we see that Christian voters continue to register to vote and vote in elections and engage. We'll know as we see legislation that actually starts to have testimony that says, as you're addressing this homelessness issue, as you're addressing this mental illness issue, here's the spiritual component that's actually behind there. And so as you elected officials wrestle with this tremendous problem that we're facing, here are some principles that you need to apply as you establish policy. We'll see it as we see influence start to creep across the landscape, and we have an impact for Christ that continues to grow.
That sounds exciting. So what do you say to those people that will always come to you and say, you got to separate church and politics, right? Church and state. What's that about?
I would say I agree with them. There is a separation of church and state, biblically mandated. God says, church, priests, I have a job for you. I want you to do this. You lead worship. You lead people in moral righteousness. You lead this aspect. Civil government, I want you to maintain order, and you have a job to do over here. And they are two separate things. There's great examples throughout the Old Testament where you see King Uzziah, who he usurped his authority as king, and he went into the religious realm, and he was punished for it, severely punished for it, because these separate entities started to cross lines. And so you have the same way where the church is not supposed to be leading government. I agree with that's the government has its role, the church has its. However, what we see today is the government says, church, you have no say in this. And that is a sheer lie. The church and the government are meant to be partners. They are meant to be solution providers together. Mm-hmm. And when they both partner together, then the solutions look tremendous. You go to Nehemiah and Ezra at that time, and you saw the group partnership, where each one of them fulfilled their roles to a great degree, and then there was tremendous success for that. So that's what I have to say is the separation of church and state thing, it's when you apply it properly.
Well, clearly it was not to have a state church as well.
Absolutely.
So, and yet, how do you have wisdom for your leaders unless you don't have the church engaged? Spirit and life and so forth. That's great. So, if people are watching this video or your website, they obviously are interested in knowing more. How do they partner with you?
All right. Well, we're trying to put our presence out there through media. We have a webpage. It's christiansengage.org, christiansengage.org. We also have a Facebook page, Christians Engage, and Twitter as well. And so all of it has the same flow. And so you may go to any of those three mediums. But our main focus is through our webpage, because we're going to have information about where we're going to be. There's going to be a calendar out there that says where we're going to be at any particular time, so that you can, anybody who wants to have us come in and be speaking and say, hey, you're going to be in our area in March. Would you please stop here? We want the people to be involved with this ministry. This is not something that's, like I said, way out in some place and across the country. We will be in your neck of the woods someday, sometime, and we want to just have to be ready to respond to you. So that webpage is
okay. So if you're a pastor, or if you're just someone that really feels a call to politics, and you're in a church, you don't know how to get it started, would they reach out to you then to say, hey, would you come talk to us, or do they have materials you can send them to get them started?
Sure. We will, the initial thing is a contact. Send us a contact form and say, we are interested in what you're doing. We would like to know more information. There will be information provided. Our webpage, we have an active blog, actually, that's going. Actually, I don't like the term blog because of perception anymore, but we will be writing articles on a very regular basis on practical application of biblical principles that will help everybody kind of answer these questions as we go through. But there will be a source of information via that way, but it all begins with a phone call and a conversation, because each church is unique. I don't think there's a one solution fits all in every circumstance, and we want to be responsive to that pastor's call, to that individual's call, and we are. The beautiful thing about our ministry is it's tailor-made, where we can customize and come out to fit a specific need, a specific audience, a specific topic at any time.
So let's say there's someone out there watching that's a Christian in the pew somewhere and really doesn't know how to take the next step, but feels like they should be involved in politics. Is there a calling for this?
I believe there's absolutely a calling. We've seen this throughout the last year. It's amazing how many Christians that we've encountered who share our frustration of where is the church? Why are we not influencing the culture? What is going on? And they know and they sense that something's not right. And so there are a lot of people who have a very specific calling to this. I believe it's just as much as there's somebody who has a calling to be the next youth minister or as the next worship leader in every church. There are future leaders in the church pews right now that I believe that congregations and pastors have a responsibility to groom to take on those leadership roles. We should be encouraging the next generation of leaders, not only within the church, but within our nation. And so we need to reach beyond and think bigger in our impact.
as a pastor, this sounds interesting. I could call someone like you, your ministry, in to say, I know there's people in my church that have a call into this. It's not my expertise. It is mine personally, but typically, as a pastor, I'd say, could you identify, maybe give some basic information on how Christians should get engaged or can get engaged, how it biblically lines up with the Bible.
Right.
And then basically it would be non-aggressive in a way that says, hey, here's an opportunity for you to take a part in your local community.
Absolutely, and that's what our role is. We want to, pastors, we understand that you have a lot on your shoulders. So this is not a criticism in any shape, manner, or form. We understand that you have so many things to deal with. You have a church to run, you have Sunday sermons to prepare, you have budgets to take care of. We want to be that contact to say, you know what, I know you share this passion. I'm going to contact you with Ric Fritz and that Center for Christian Civic Engagement, and let's let you figure out what this ministry might look like for our church. That's what the role is. We want to partner with pastors. We want to take the burden off their shoulders. Now, I am going to say, hey, pastors, do you know your local officials, and are you praying for them, and are you making relationships? Because I believe that's a healthy thing, that if elected officials make good relationships with their pastors, that's going to be a great benefit. However, our goal is not to be an additional burden. We're meant to be a partner. We're meant to take away some of the burden.
So you might make some tools for the pastor themselves to actually bridge that gap and saying, this is the area where it's okay and actually encouraged for you to be involved without doing whatever.
Without crossing those certain boundaries, right. I think there's a lot of concern. Pastors say, no, we're not going to touch that because we're concerned about tax implications, the IRS. And there are very clear things that can be done and can't be done. The list of things that can't be done are a lot smaller than I think a lot of pastors think there are. And so we want to help you as a pastor. If you have questions going, what can I do? What are these things? We want to be with you. We want to help you say, okay, these are your boundaries, so that you feel more comfortable engaging in these conversations. So absolutely.
So I'm assuming you need appointments. I'm assuming this is not free. You have to go across the country, so you have to be funded. So people can partner with you that way as well, right?
Absolutely. Actually, this is a complete step of faith. Once again, we did sell our home. We are fully invested in this, and so we are completely dependent upon partners and donations to fund our trip, to fund our ministry. Without good Christian people who share our passion, we will go nowhere. We will not have the impact we're looking for. However, I know that's not going to be the case, because I worship a great God whose economy is not the economy of the world. People might look and say, you're being irresponsible. I tell you what, we've been taking a life lesson from George Mueller from his the orphans and orphanages over in Europe, or in England, and his absolute faith that Christ will provide. And we share that faith. We know the Lord will provide. However, we know that also the Lord works through people. And we know if you have a feeling, if this is calling to you right now, visit our webpage, and there's ways that you can connect. You can do a monthly donation. We're looking for monthly partners. Especially right now, we're looking for those who say, you know what, I'm going to give you a 6-month partnership. I want to connect with you to launch you out for 6 months at a time. And then, because we're going to provide the feedback. This is the number of places we've gone. These are the people we've impacted. Here's the progress we've made. And if you feel any time to go, hey, this money could be best used someplace else, so be it. But you know what? I think by the end, you're going to see some tremendous action by the Lord, and this will have an impact on our communities in our nation.
So if you want to get engaged and want to partner with Pastor Ric here with the Center for Christian Civic Engagement, go to christiansengage.org. Check out these videos and so forth. But really, if you have a passion to see the church engaged, to actually stand for issues and people and topics that actually restore freedoms, that demand righteousness, that the things that you are passionate about, then you support people like you and your family doing this mission, doing this ministry, because it makes sense. Because we all can't be there, but we can actually send you there. And it actually has just as much or more power helping other pastors and other churches actually engage in the political process, making a difference for all of us and the generations to come.
The Center for Christian Civic Engagement is an organization its mission is to have and engage and inspire Christians and train them on what it looks like for biblically worldview Christians to engage in the conversations that are affecting the future of our communities, of our families, and of our nation. And so our vision is to see more Christians engage in conversations that impact the world. And this is just as like this this conversation are just as important as individual conversations about the gospel message of the salvation grace of Jesus Christ. As we continue to go out and speak God's truths into the topics of our time, we will then allow God to work in those who are leading our nation to create good policies, to create good legislation that can change our world. Our job and our mission is to influence the world around us rather than letting that world influence us. We want to see Christ glorified. We want to see God's purposes served, and we're excited for you to come and join us on this journey.
I fully support your ministry, obviously. I'm a board member on it, and I can't have to say enough about this man and his family. He's going to do a great job across this nation. Go to his website at christiansengage.org, support them on their ministry, partner with them, and allow them to bring the tools to help you and your ministry out.